Hello, and welcome to another in the series of character creation. Well, we're almost done with Bob the Cleric. We've just got a couple of little things that we probably want to just sort of finish off with the character. So if we pop over back to the Actions tab again, now from the last video I've cleared out all the spells, etc., just to make this a little clearer, and in fact we'll make that go away as well, so that we've got a bigger space to look at. What we want to do in this video is just to sort of put some brief effects into the Actions tab to cover a couple of things that Bob has in terms of abilities, and also things that he might do in combat. So if we have a look at the Abilities tab, and we're going to concentrate on this one here, Dwarven Resilience. So if we open that up, we see that Bob's got advantage on saving throws against poison, and he has resistance against poison damage. So we go back to our Actions tab, and we're just going to drag this in and drop it into the Actions tab. And the reason we do this is because this creates a link, so we can open this back up again at any time and find out what this is all about. Otherwise you have to type this in yourself. So now what we want to do is we want to create the effects as far as we can to handle this. Now, effects are discussed in another series of videos because they're a huge subject, but I thought I would show you this just briefly. So we're going to right click over this line here, we go to this Add Action arrow, and then we go to Add Effects, and this brings up a new effect line. We'll click on a little magnifying glass, gives us our spell ability effects here, and in this box here we're going to type in Dwarven Resilience, because we're going to give it a name, because once it appears on the combat tracker we want to know what this is, and then we're going to finish that with a semicolon, and then put a space in, and then type resist in capital letters, a colon, and then poison. We're going to set the targeting to self, the expend to never, and there's no duration for this. Now we can't do anything about the second part. We can't create a saving throw against poison, because you can't actually save against a damage type specifically. This would be some kind of ability save, possibly a con save or whatever. So that has to be handled manually. We can't create an effect for that. You could if you wanted to put another semicolon on here, and I don't know, V poison or something like that. Fantasy Grounds will essentially ignore that bit, but you can put it in there if you wanted to, but it isn't necessary. It can't be done. And so we can click out of that, and we see now that we've got the effect in here. And if we were to open up the well, we can't do this because we're in the players thing, but if we were on the combat tracker, we can just click this button, and this would apply the effect to Bob on a permanent position. I mean, you see we've got an error here. This is because we're on the players thing rather than the Dungeon Master's side. The Dungeon Master would have to put this onto the combat tracker for it to work. But anyway, that's how that would do. So you can do this for any class abilities where you think that there may be an effect which could be created. Then what I would suggest is you open up the abilities, open up the item, and then drag it into the Actions tab. In some cases, like a rogue's sneak attack, it will actually set up the effect for you. But in this case it didn't, so we had to do it ourselves. So in this, just to finish this off here, in this right hand box here, we can type in what this is. So this is a racial trait, and so if we type in racial traits, once we tab out, this will give the power group a name, which makes everything a bit neater. Another thing which Bob might do during combat is he, instead of attacking or whatever, he might decide that he's going to dodge. So Fantasy Grounds can handle the dodge automatically, so we can set up an effect for that. So we're going to need a new power group, so we're going to go into the edit list and then create a new power group. And in the right hand box here, we can put something in. well, let's call it combat powers or whatever one you want. As long as you give it a name, it doesn't matter, and it just distinguishes it from anything else. And in this box here, we can give it a name as well, and call it the dodge action. And just like this one, we are going to right click over this, add an action, add an effect, click on the little magnifying glass, and all we need in here is dodge. The target's set to self, and the expend this time, or the duration this time, is probably just going to be 1 round, because that's what you do. You until the end of your turn, that's what you're going to be doing is dodging. And that effectively is it. We can close that, and this is the dodge action. Here, the effect. We would apply the effect to ourselves, and the Fantasy Grounds will automatically do any dexterity saving throws with advantage, and so on and so forth. So anything that the dodge effect does, Fantasy Grounds will automatically do during the time that the effect is actually applied to the character. Now, there's one other thing that I sneakily did when you weren't looking, and that was in Bob's inventory. I gave him a shield here. You can see that he's got a shield, and if we have a wee look at the AC back here, we click on this, we see that he's now getting 2 points of additional armor class because he's got that shield equipped. But we also noticed in an earlier video, if we look at the weapons, that Bob can use his hand, his longsword two-handed. Now, if he's using his longsword with 2 hands, then he obviously shouldn't be getting the benefit of the shield. And so we can set up an effect to do that. We can just add it into the combat powers one, and if we right click over that and just create an item, and what we can do here is just type in combat powers, and it will automatically add it to the combat, the power group that we added earlier. And we're going to call this one no shield, and then we're going to right click again, add an action, add an effect, open the magnifying glass, and we're going to put in, well, let's give it a name, no shield, semicolon, AC colon -2, and the target's going to be self. We're going to leave the duration and the expend to never, because we don't know how long he's going to not wear his shield. We can close that off, and when this applies to the character, it will basically remove the effect of the shield. It won't change this number here. This number will still be 18, but when Bob gets attacked by something, it will take account of the fact that there should be a -2 to the armor class. So you don't need to worry about that number changing. It won't, but the correct armor class will be used by Fantasy Grounds to determine whether Bob gets hit or not. So I think that's probably it. I don't want to, as I say, go into effects in too much detail, because they are the subject of half a dozen or so other videos. So I would refer you to those if you want to know more about effects. But these are the kind of things that you can do with your character, just simple things like that, just to automate 1 or 2 of the more standard things that you might come across with your character. Okay, that's it. Cheers for now.